We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one courage, not a blade of grass. This
Hello, Guyana. Thanks for staying with us as we continue our discussions here on Budget in Focus. We're bringing you everything from budget 2025, all the debates, all of the issues being covered. I'm here today with MP Kathy Hughes. Thank you for joining us, MP.
My pleasure. My absolute pleasure.
Well, you know, your presentation really covered on a lot of important issues where the government seems to be in a full-blown attempt to rewrite history, to push all sorts of ridiculous propaganda. And so it's so useful to clear up some of this. It is interesting that they've decided that the hill they want to die on is Amalia Falls.
I know.
And so you can just give us refresh the public's mind in terms of the Amalia Falls project and just dispel some of the propaganda that the PUP has been putting out there.
Right. Thank you very much for having me in the discussion today. You're absolutely correct, Elson. I felt that, you know, today's the last day of the presentations. And of course, we've had excellent presentations on our side that have gone into the challenges of the budget itself. The fact that it doesn't do much to ease the cost of living, which we know is the number one issue facing all of us in Guyana today.
Absolutely.
And so what I wanted to do really is, there's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
What I explained and called mendacious propaganda that the government is very, very strong on throwing out all the time. I'm not in the actual chamber, so I could say sheer lies, lies. And so I felt very strongly that I wanted my presentation to start off by tackling some of those, the misinformation, some of the lies, some of the mendacious propaganda that the PPP is always throwing out there. And people really have not had the opportunity to know differently or the time to research.
Sure.
And so that's where I kind of started off with. You know, in page 2 of the minister's budget presentation, which is literally not more than 5 minutes into it. You and I will know that unfortunately the first 45 minutes of the presentation was just a cuss down.
I'm telling you.
And I felt so bad, you know, a budget presentation usually has such a higher level of decorum. You're there to inform people. You're there to tell the citizens of a country what you're going to do with their money.
Exactly.
And so this cuss down, low life kind of presentation was really, really pretty bad. But on page 2, he talks, and it's the usual mantra, that in 2020, when they came into power, to quote unquote, he said that the economy was an economic calamity. And that we know means that it was a total disaster. Everything was wrong. We left no money there. It was a total disaster. They came like the knights in shining armor and had to fix everything. Well, Alson, I quoted from the International Monetary Fund, and this is one of their releases. You can find it online, as I did, and here's what it said. Guyana's economic growth strengthened in 2018 with broad-based expansion across all major sectors. Real GDP growth grew by 4.1%, led by construction and the services sector, up from 2.1%. Inflation remained low at 1.6% at the end of 2018. Where's our inflation rate now under the PPP? And then, of course, they said public finances improved in 2018 as the central government deficit came in at around 3.5% of GDP lower than the budgeted 4% of GDP. So I was just using that as an example. This is just one of the many contradictions or lies that the Minister of Finance has delivered. Clearly, the IMF, a recognizable international organization, their word is worth. They manage economies. They're the ones, of course, our viewers will know quite often. We have to go to the countries, go to the International Monetary Fund for loans and monies when they have fiscal budget payment deficits and challenges. So this is no ordinary organization. This is the IMF speaking. The other thing, and it was so interesting, because a good 10 minutes or maybe even 15 minutes of Gail Teixeira's presentation, she kept referring to the Myla Falls project. Oh, we would have had electricity if the APNU AFC had not, disbanded the project, never gave our approval, blame it all on the APNU AFC, as they usually do. A complete set of lies and misinformation and untruths. More of the mendacious propaganda. So again, I use this document, which is the IDB's Amila Falls technical briefing. And this goes back to March 20th, 2014. And this is what the IDB says about the project. Of course, they say the project offers Guyana a long-term climate-friendly renewable solution for its energy sector by introducing for the first time significant diversification in the energy mix. Now, the first point is the fact that here is IDB saying this is the first time we're changing our energy mix, right? And of course, the PPP had 23 years before that in the time of climate change, resiliency.
They believed that never were in government.
Exactly. So they had a right to be doing something since before. So we would have been in a better position by the time we came in 2015. But most importantly, here is what the IDB says. And if you don't mind, I'll read it for our viewers. IDB's NSG loan would entail a credit rating of the project they mean of RC7, which exceeds risk tolerance as defined for all NSG projects. And the bank has never approved a loan with this rating. Guyana Power and Light, the sole off-taker, has a weak credit profile, poor operational, financial, and technical performance, high energy losses, fuel price volatility, tariff uncertainty, and the uncertain future hydrology. This clearly shows that the IDB, as they said here, had serious doubts, and as they said, would not take the financial risk of funding the project.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing that we hear so much about is this signing bonus, the signature bonus, and oh my goodness, the APNU AFC stole, all this money. And, all of us got a bit of it in our pocket, I suppose they want to say. But again, this is a complete lie. And I wanted to refer to the fact that, in fact, former Prime Minister, former Minister, Mr. Minister Greenidge, actually came to the Parliament in December of 2017 and explained exactly what this signing bonus was all about. Now, I think it's important for our viewers to understand that at the time, we were seeking to get funds to go to the International Court of Justice. And we couldn't declare publicly to Guyana, guess what, folks? We're going to the International Court of Justice.
And this is how much money we have.
And this is how much money we have. And warn and let Mr. Maduro know what our plans were.
Exactly.
So there was a certain amount of national security that was required surrounding the signing bonus. But here is what Mr. Greenidge said in Parliament. First of all, that during September 2015, high-level closed-doors meetings were held about taking this controversy to the International Court of Justice. We had more than 25 years, nearly 30 years of good officer engagements, trying to talk.
Exactly.
We know now that as took place after 2015, Venezuela is interested in taking our land, and we have to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
So he went on to say that it was agreed that a sum would be set aside as a potential to pay the legal fees. We didn't have the monies at that time. So what they did is in 2007, CGX actually paid the legal costs for Guyana's successful legal case against Suriname. Because remember, Suriname had a dispute
on the other end.
with us. And so those legal costs came in at about $10 million US.
Sure.
So quite effectively, they assumed that with the passage of time, International Court of Justice, let us estimate that Guyana is going to need to find about $15 million US.
Exactly. So.
That is where the whole signing bonus came into being. So the signing bonus of 18 million was agreed upon, comprising 15 million, which was for the legal fees, and 3 million for training. Now, what is very interesting, and people don't even recognize this, what was that 3 million for training about? The APNU AFC administration realized since 2015 that we needed to pick a few of our brightest young people, send them to the best universities, have them do training in oil and gas. It would take them 4 to 6 years, and then they would come back and they would be able to help manage the industry. There would be the first line crop of indigenous experts, Guyanese experts handling our oil and gas industry. Very unlike what takes place today. We've now been at this close to 5 years, and guess what? All the experts come from the US, from Mexico, from Trinidad. So we would have been in a better place. So that's what that signing bonus was for. But most importantly, what I wanted to say is that when this money was received, it was actually deposited in an account at the Bank of America, which is the same account that the monies from our National Resource Fund is banked in internationally. And of course, then it's transferred into the consolidated fund. And so in December 31st, 2018, the monies were, of course, banked in the account, and in December 31st, the sum of 3.7 million US was withdrawn as the first tranche for the payment of the legal fees. And of course, in January 24, 2019, the remaining was transferred to the consolidated fund. What I want to show you finally is the fact that here are the receipts. Here are the receipts.
Ladies and gentlemen,
here are the receipts. Of the monies going into the consolidated fund, right? And the requisite signature for the accounting general is right there. And of course, here is the receipt, right? Bank of the Guyana, and you can see big and bold, received, stamped. So we know where this money went. But yet, as the misinformation about Amila Falls, as about all the things that we never did. Priya keeps saying that we never built a school. How come immediately, without just going to Region 7, I was able to pick up that we built 4 schools in Region 7. We had to renovate the Cato school. Ended up a disaster. A total disaster. Ended up costing exactly. In 2018. That project started in 2013. Contract was signed in 2012. In 2018, 5 years later, there was a statement that the school was unfit. And we all remember those pictures. That was under Priya Manachand's watch. And later on, it ended up costing $780 million
to fix it.
and 140 million to fix. So this is $1 billion of our monies
Yeah.
wasted.
Well, one of the key
Wasted.
things that we've noticed in the PvP is unless you're literally building something, they don't count it as doing something.
Yes.
So whereas we had 48% passes in mathematics at
Yep.
CSEC,
Yep.
she doesn't consider that as doing something. I guess she prefers the 31% pass rate that we have now because they're building schools all over the place, but apparently the students are not benefiting from various initiatives. And I don't know who spends more money and gets worse results other than
And
the
something has
PvP.
got to be wrong.
Yeah.
Something is wrong just on a common sense basis.
At least you would maintain the results.
Exactly, that you're going to spend more money
Yeah.
and you're doing worse.
Terrible.
And you still think that you don't need to stop and analyze that. But you and I will know that you could build
Yeah.
100 schools.
Yeah.
If you haven't got the teachers,
And you don't pay the teachers.
yeah, you don't pay them, and then you don't have enough.
Yep. Yep.
The rest of the world understand how important
Yeah.
Guyanese teachers are. England, the US,
Botswana.
Canada, Botswana years ago took all of our teachers practically, and that was under the PPP. And so we don't treat our teachers well. They have other options, When you have teachers that are comfortable, and let me salute the teachers because we know they go in their pockets to do the best with what they have.
Absolutely.
Right? When the teachers can perform, these children perform. And really, in this day and age, are we saying the most valuable of our public servants that it's okay not to pay them, that they must have 2 and 3 jobs, that they can't come to a workshop because on Saturday they got to cook extra chana to go and sell it in town or something like that?
Yeah, that seems to be their focus with them now, removing taxes to a certain extent and overtime. So they seem to be telling people go and get another job and so on, rather than having your existing job pay you as it should for you to be comfortable.
Exactly.
And it also seems that they haven't internalized that we're in the Botswana position now where we have tremendous revenues. Why wouldn't we focus on teachers that are so vital, especially if your performance is pretty poor?
Exactly. And that's what is so sad about this budget.
Yeah.
That these are the realities that the budget does not examine.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the first thing they will say is fiscal space. Oh, although it looks like it's a $1.382 trillion budget,
I'm telling you.
we don't have money to pay the teachers. We don't have money to do more with the nurses.
Yeah.
We don't have money to have clean water.
Yeah.
But these are the things that the citizens and the people of Guyana, I ask them to listen to the presentations, take a few minutes to correct the misinformation, because one thing you could say about the PPP, they are masters at propaganda. Many of them have studied in the Soviet Union, in Russia, and they know how to do that well. One of the things I also mentioned is this misnomer about us not having money, right? And I mentioned 2 projects, the Schoonard Road project, and that project, the tender, the contract came in at 600 million over the engineer's estimate. So imagine the engineer looks at the road that needs to be built, measures, does all the technical studies, and says, you know what? This road is going to cost 300 million Ghana dollars to build.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How come the contract is for that 300 million plus another 600 million?
Good question.
Which the engineer didn't say is needed for a drain or for some other thing. The estimate to build a road is 300. And I'm just using that as an example.
Generally.
But the factual figure is that it was 600 million over the estimate. Why did 600 million needed to be added on? I asked them to explain. Let's hear if they explain. There's no explanation other than somebody got to get a cutback.
Well,
I hear some of those ministers on projects that size have to collect 30 million before
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
contract even signed.
You know, in Pakistan,
Everybody got to get a bit.
in Pakistan, there was a minister called Mr. 10%
Yeah.
because he had to give 10% of
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And so I think we Guyanese really need to ask questions around these types of expenses far beyond what things should cost. We've seen IMF talk about our efficiency gap, where for every dollar spent on these types of projects, we're losing 42 cents due to incompetence, corruption,
Yep.
etc.
Yeah.
And most recently, we even saw the Damar Harbor Bridge. The price for that go from 260 million to 318 million. Explanations, no explanations. This is US.
Yeah.
This is a trend that we're seeing with the PPP nonstop, and we want to remind viewers that the money that is being stolen or wasted is money that can be put towards the cost of living crisis.
Exactly.
Which is extremely severe in Guyana. We've seen food inflation as high as anywhere in the world.
Yep.
And is especially difficult with a country where so many people are already on the poverty.
Yeah, 48% poverty.
Living in poverty, you know? So
it's
extremely
very sad.
callous of the government.
So that's the thing. You know, for a long time, Guyana struggled because we just didn't have the financial resources.
Yeah.
Now we have it. We are making
Yeah.
$65 million an hour. $65 million an hour. By the end of today, my presentation where I spoke for half an hour,
Well,
that's over 30 million, right there and then. And if we think about it, why, when we have the resources, we can't do better for our people?
Exactly.
And and this is where another tragedy in the budget is, they talk about easing the cost of living. And one of the measures is going to be a reduction in electricity.
In the VAT on generators.
Right. They mentioned the VAT on generators, but they also said that a reduction in electricity costs. Right.
Okay. Yes.
But as you know, they're basing that on the Gas to Shore project. Which is not exactly, which already is $2 billion, right? It's skyrocketed. It's gone up 200% since the initial figures of what it's going to cost. It's gone all the way up to $2 billion. We have no idea when it's going to be finished, how much the final cost would be. And I know you're an economist.
There's two
is it going to be?
suits.
And there are two arbitration suits. One of them is 100 million.
Well, I think when you add it up, it comes up to around about 100
million. Both are 100 million.
But that also raises the question to whether there's a delay because of the arbitration suits. That's really, I think, troubling.
Right.
You know, how many projects can you need to have two suits on them simultaneously?
Honestly, that just shows you the level of mismanagement.
Absolutely.
And they shout in there that, we don't need a study. APNU AFC always got studies. But this is where, when you do an economic study, a feasibility plan, you know what to expect. And you can plan for those eventualities. The worst thing about the Gas to Shore, in addition to not knowing, so we don't know when we can get this electricity relief. We don't know when the project is going to be completed. And worse yet, we don't know if by the time all these costs go in, it really is going to reduce our electricity by 50%.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and it seems, and I think viewers are probably picking this up, that it doesn't matter how much money PPP has, there will never be enough money for those in need in this country. One, they're not a priority. Two, the level of corruption is unbelievable. And three, their incompetence reaches ends that I don't think you can really compare. I mean, even, and we can close on this point, looking at the giveaway of the cash grant of this 100,000 per person. I mean, the easiest thing to do is to give away money. And even that, they have been struggling. The Minister of Finance mentioned, I think it's 90,000 people have received the cash grant. There's 600,000 people that are due to receive this
and still can't get it.
I mean, it's been months.
And that's a classic, another example I gave, because when both APNU and the AFC talked about the best way to ease the cost of living is to do a cash transfer, we stipulated that it should be in law, so that it's not left to the whims and fancies of any political minister, such. It could be structured. So the country knows that once we have X number of dollars, every 4 months, every 6 months, or once a year, the people of Guyana get whatever that figure
Predictable
is.
and so on.
Exactly. Now, in July of last year, we made the call for the cash grant. And in July of last year, I said it in my speech, I had the copy. The Chronicle did an article about it. Guyana Times did one also, and then the Guyana Standard did one. Whereby Mr. Jagdeo responded by saying, this is foolishness. The worst thing to do is to give people
Telling you.
money straight in their hands. Why would the government? It's irresponsible financial management.
Yeah.
But guess what? By November, Mr. Jagdeo was singing a different tune, as
Totally
he always
different.
does.
Totally different.
And it now was a very good idea.
Yeah.
Except he bundled it because, again, they didn't plan. It was 200 for every household. And then when we asked how many households, because we wanted to make sure everybody could get, they had nothing to, they couldn't say how many households. And then it became every 100,000 for every person over 18 years
They couldn't
old.
establish households. They're asking for light bills,
And a whole
for
set of stupidness.
lease agreements. It was confusion.
Stupidness. But you know, I do want to say to citizens that we are not adverse to budgets giving our citizens as much redress and support. We recognize the need. Our position actually is that we have the ability to do better.
Absolutely.
And if we can do better, we must. And as a member of parliament, as members on the opposite side, that is what we push.
Absolutely.
We want the best for our people. We are here to represent their interests, to bring their stories, to bring their challenges. So yes, we are happy that they've put the wage, the minimum wage, to 130,000. But guess what? Starbrick News and every Tom, Dick, and Harry knows that the minimum wage needs to be in the vicinity of 150,000 to 200,000, just based on the cost of living. So that's why we're saying you could do better. And when you put it to 130,
it's very minimal.
It's very minimal. So most of the 48% poverty are not making that 130,000. So they're not getting that redress.
The tax-free threshold being at 130 as well
doesn't affect them.
And of course, there's no social safety net really built out in this budget to help the vulnerable and to bring us out of poverty.
Elson, the public assistance, and I have been worried about the amount of people that come to me to say, I'm no longer on the public assistance list. It's like if they cut hundreds of people off in the last year. Now, I have a good friend who has a daughter who is paraplegic. To get them, he actually is hoping to get one of those vehicles that can transport. And I just want to remind people, when they say that we did nothing, in 2017, we got GRA to actually do a special compensation and reduction in taxes for those kinds of vehicles for persons living with disabilities. But they increased the public assistance by $3,000. But my friend spends $4,000, $2,000 each way to carry his daughter by taxi to the Diamond Special Needs School. So that's just to show you. 3,000 for someone.
Well, I think one of the key things is that the PPP doesn't understand that every disability is different in some respects.
Exactly.
And so people will have different needs if you really want to help them. And so that's a perfect example of where...
and some needs are extreme.
Some needs are extreme. Some people will need full-time caregivers.
Exactly.
So really, it's going to require evaluations, and that is what we will do in order to provide appropriate support for people across the spectrum of disabilities that exists. And there's so many. We want to say thanks again for giving us some of your time. I think we covered so many topics really well, and we highlighted that the PPP is, as many people on the road would say, a waste of time. If you can't even give away money, I mean, what can you do? So viewers, thanks a lot for tuning in. We're just wrapping up here with MP Kathy Hughes, and this is Budget in Focus. We look forward to the next program, so keep tuned.
Thank you, Elson.